An extraordinary journey inside a country on the brink of an economic collapse. Venezuela's once thriving middle class is now trapped in desperation, struggling to put food on the table, some even dying from simple infections due to a lack of basic medicines. Our Matt Gutman traveled to Venezuela for a rare first-hand report from inside this repressive authoritarian regime.
Venezuela, a tropical paradise steeped in natural riches, sitting atop the biggest oil reserves on the planet, once oozing glamour and excess, known for its beauty queens, black gold, and its authoritarian rulers. But now it's a country in the midst of violent upheaval. When the price of oil crashed, the economy went with it, exposing the failures of Hugo Chávez's socialist government, triggering hundreds of riots and mass instability. And now the people are paying the price. I traveled to Venezuela twice before. But this time, from the moment we arrived, we saw people rising up.
Freedom, please! Freedom! Freedom!
There are probably a couple of thousand people who have overtaken this highway. Is life harder for you now than it was?
Yes. There's no food, there's no quality of life here. We cannot go to the streets at night.
She tells us under the current president, Nicolas Maduro, the descent into chaos has accelerated. Caracas is now the murder capital of the world.
It's a humanity fight. It's not a political fight.
Lilian Tinturi is an opposition leader here.
Do you think Maduro is ready to give in?
Maduro is a dictatorship. He needs to go.
Are you prepared for confrontation if it has to happen?
I don't want confrontation.
Lilian has paid dearly for speaking out. Her husband has been a political prisoner here since 2014, imprisoned under Maduro. Maduro rules with an iron fist, hauling opponents off to detention and silencing the press, at times violently. Food lines have to be guarded by soldiers, and they tell the story of the world's worst performing economy with inflation over 800%. But shockingly, Venezuela's leaders deny it even exists.
No hay crisis humanitaria. No la hay. Lo afirmo con total responsabilidad. No la hay.
But when you talk to the people here, there is no denying the crisis is real. Food shortages pushing some people to ransack food trucks. We met up with second grade teacher Vanessa, and she invited us into her class. She tells us that some of her students have fainted from hunger.
No comen, expresan que están agotados porque ese día se pararon en la madrugada con su mamá a ir a hacer cola, no se concentran en las actividades, ya sea por hambre, fatiga.
Just milk. These kids aren't asking for candy or fast food.
Leche. Y dime, ¿cuánto hace que no tomas leche?
When the food began to vanish, so did Vanessa's students. The upturned chairs on the desks, an unofficial roll call. But it's not just the students.
Anoche yo me acosté prácticamente sin cenar. Y él sí cenó, pero yo no.
More than a third of the country's teachers miss school every day so they can stand in lines like these, hoping to buy the staples they need for their own children at a much cheaper government-subsidized price. Sometimes they have to wait for hours and get nothing at all. Vanessa and her husband Adolfo are two of the few teachers that, despite the journey, work every day. It's a 2-hour hitchhike and a bus ride to and from school. They had to sell their car to survive. Vanessa and Adolfo have to alternate eating dinner on different nights to make sure their son gets to eat every day. The meals missed have taken a toll on their bodies. just a morsel of cheese brings a smile to their young son's face.
Le puedo comprar 100 gramos de queso parmesano. Más nada. Que el dinero no me alcance ni para comprarle al niño. Nada. Puedo gastar 4.000 bolívares, 200 gramos, 100 gramos, algo así. Es lo que puedo gastar.
With inflation, the equivalent for a U.S. family would be $400.
No comemos como tenemos que comer, pero algo tenemos en la mesa. Así sea un pan con mantequilla o una arepa sola, pero la tenemos pues.
Teachers here need to earn 16 base salaries just to adequately feed a family of 5.
Y lamentablemente que ahora uno es padre y yo quisiera que lo que yo viví,
Lo que uno vivió,
que él también lo viviera. Oye, a mí me gustaría tenerlo en que estudiara en un colegio como el que yo estudié.
no sé, la vida era diferente. Aquí ni clase media. Todos somos pobres, pobres más pobres. Todos los venezolanos lo vivimos. Así como yo lo... Y hay personas que lo viven peor.
We went to the supermarket so we could see for ourselves what the average worker here can buy. They make about $30 a month.
So $1 a piece for each of these apples. Each one of these apples is about 5% of the average worker's monthly wage, just one of these apples. That's pretty crazy.
We were surprised because the supermarket looked fully stocked, but turns out it's missing what people need to survive.
Workers here tell us they don't have are the staples of Venezuelan life. Flour, bread, butter, sugar, and milk.
What everyone here knows is that we are all under the watchful eye of the government-backed militias. But this one woman was so desperate to tell her story, she was willing to risk it all and followed us out.
Yo pesaba 60 kilos. ¿Cuánto peso ahorita? 47 kilos.
She says that she's lost 30 pounds this year just because there's not enough food.
She wants the world to know, she says, turning directly to the camera.
Oye, que esto lo sepa todo el mundo. Nos estamos muriendo de hambre, los venezolanos. Esto no es posible. Estamos en una dictadura, pero disfrazada. Todos son testigos. Hay gente que no podemos hablar. ¿Por qué? Porque nos tienen amordazados. Si tú hablas, mandan a los colectivos a que te agredan, a que te maten.
Our moto taxi driver suddenly starts to tell us, you guys, we're being watched. We got to get out of here. It abruptly breaks off, and we hop on those taxis.
It's this repression, this everyday threat of violence mixed with complete failure of the government that is forcing tens of thousands to flee. Venezuela now leads U.S. asylum requests worldwide, leaving China, a country with a population over 4,000 times its size, in second place. In this chaos, the only thing thriving is the black market. Scenes like this play out every day. People illegally buying products intended for the food lines right out of a government warehouse. Black marketeers, like Marco, making a profit. Marco asked us not to show his face or reveal his real name, but he invited us along his route through Caracas to witness this Mad Max economy. His company is contracted by the government to deliver subsidized goods to hospitals, schools, and prisons. Marco tells us the corruption starts at the top. He says the military generals skim about 50% and sell it on the black market. He says people like him then skim another 30% to resell it, and only a fraction is actually delivered to the people. And it's not just food. The death toll here is on the rise due to shortages of medicine and basic supplies. This clinic director tells us she can only treat the most basic of ailments. Headaches, stomach aches, that's it. There are no antibiotics.
Nada.
No hay
Nada
antibiótico. ¿Desde hace cuánto que no tiene?
Per año y medio más o menos.
Ni un antibiótico.
Ni un antibiótico. Ni siquiera inyectado.
Basic services have ceased to function. A simple infection can be deadly. Those shortages have driven people like Feliciano Reyna to crowdsource medications. The Cornell-educated architect has created a medicine chest that distributes over 200 types of meds to 1,700 people, all of it for free.
In a matter of just, let's say, 2 months, we got donations of medicines from Miami, also from Houston, Rome, Madrid. When we get a donation, make a list and then send it out via Twitter. Also, we put lists on Facebook. The government is not admitting that this is happening. They just do not accept that there are these severe problems for people to have access to healthcare in general.
That is why he's doing everything he can to help his fellow citizens.
Our commitment is to be there with the people. This does not stop us from doing what we know is right.
The government has tightened its grip on the most vulnerable. Hospitals are now under military control. We saw armed guards at the doors. Doctors tell us they're not there to protect the patients, but to take control of any donations that might come in and to prevent journalists like us from reporting on what is really going on inside.
In Caracas, people told us that if you want to see how bad it really is, you have to go to the peripheries. Go to cities like Valencia.
So we drove 3 hours out of Caracas, where we were told things were much worse. We were about to discover just how bad it could be.